Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Micah, and if you're new here, welcome. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the one mistake many people make when trying to practice mindfulness. I come to you today speaking from experience with mindfulness and making this mistake because I think it is such a common belief that so many people have. Mindfulness can often feel like an impossible goal because it seems so hard to do, because of a limiting belief that mindfulness requires you to be clear of thought and be still and not think about anything. But that's actually the opposite of what mindfulness is. And I'm going to teach you today some ways of how to be mindful and how to not be stuck in this mindset. Mindfulness allows us to acknowledge our suffering and not push it down and not distract ourselves from it. Because the way to get over suffering is to feel it and to take action off those feelings and change your behavior. Because when you look at your suffering, when being mindful, you can see the cause of it and why it's happening, whether it's you, whether it's external forces. And that's why mindfulness is so important, especially for people who suffer from mental illnesses, because so often with mental illnesses is overthinking and distraction, toxic behaviors. That's what's so important, this practice. I personally am a Buddhist, and mindfulness and meditation is a big part of my religion, and the basis of Buddhist teaching is to acknowledge suffering and to feel your suffering, to share your suffering in order to get over it, in order to feel enlightened, in order to feel at peace, because there is no other way to get over suffering without feeling your suffering. I would like to read you an excerpt from this book from a Tibetan Buddhist nun. It's a really great little pocket-sized book that you can take anywhere with you if you're interested in getting some insight on the go. This is not an ad. Excerpt 104. Recognizing suffering as suffering. When suffering arises in our lives, we can recognize it as suffering. When we get what we don't want, and when we don't get what we do want, when we become ill, when we're getting old, and when we're dying, when we see any of these things in our lives, we can recognize suffering as suffering. Then we can be curious, notice, and be mindful of our reactions to that. Again, usually we're either resentful or feeling cheated somehow, or we're delighted. But whatever our reaction is, it's usually habitual. Instead, we could see the next impulse come up, and how we spin off from there. Spinning off is neither good nor bad. It's just something that happens as a reaction to the pleasure and pain of our existence. We can simply see that without judgment or the intention to clean up our act. And that's essentially the goal of mindfulness, is just to see our suffering as suffering. When we do that without judgment, see it for what it is, it can really change your perception when you walk away from the mindfulness practice. And the more you practice mindfulness and meditation, the more those practices will start to come to you in everyday life. You can be mindful in every moment. And I think personally, being mindful in every moment helps you create better decisions for yourself and other people. Mindfulness can also help us to be better listeners, better friends, a better family member, because you're not only being mindful of your suffering, but you're also being mindful of theirs. And being a good listener requires mindfulness, and listening is a huge part of relationships. A great time to practice mindfulness is when you feel overwhelmed, or stressed, or deep in your feelings, sad, angry, even, because in those moments you need to ground yourself, not to dismiss the feelings, not to forget them, but to feel them in a safe environment. And practicing mindfulness can be a safe environment. Taking a seat, taking deep breaths, allowing yourself to have the feelings come up. A mindfulness practice that I love to do is to journal. Now, you've probably heard that many times before, and journaling just sounds intimidating at first, I will say. And in my very mentally ill past, I would have told you that journaling is stupid and writing down your feelings has no purpose. But that's completely not true, and that was just my mentally ill brain talking there, for sure. Mindfulness through meditation is great. It allows the suffering to come up, allows you to take a deep breath. But you can also do that through journaling and actually have a written down example of your feelings. And it can be a physical release of those feelings, in my opinion. And you can practice deep breathing at the same time as you're writing, taking breaks between sentences. And then when you're done, reading the whole thing back, recognizing your suffering, and then allowing yourself that space to feel. It's so important. You can do that in many ways, but journaling and meditation are my favorites. How can we be mindful in our day-to-day life, especially when we have so many distractions going on? Such an overstimulating environment that we live in currently with technology. We can get information about anything we want at our fingertips through a Google search. It's a great power, but with great power comes great responsibility. And I think that responsibility is within ourselves to not let that power overtake us. The power of overconsumption, the power of the world at our fingertips. So how can we do that in our day-to-day life? I think learning breathing techniques. When we feel overwhelmed by media or by our feelings, pausing and taking a deep breath has a really big impact, whether you think it sounds silly or not. Someone once told me, oftentimes we feel anxious because we forget to breathe. Reflecting on that, I believe that's extremely true. With anxiety comes heart palpitations, heavy breathing, sometimes even holding our breath. Often, a simple thing as taking a deep breath and holding it, releasing it slowly, can slow down the heart and release those negative effects of anxiety that the brain causes. Another way we can practice mindfulness in our day-to-day lives is through listening, and this is very broad. As I mentioned before, listening is really important. So I think there are 3 different types of listening that we can do, and I'll break them down for you. One is listening to your environment, listening to the sounds, the sights, what I hear, also what I see, listening visually in a way. And that can really ground you in the moment, because when you're so caught up with your brain, you forget to see the beauty around you, and it can really bring you back to reality. Second is going to be listening to your body. Oftentimes, we don't listen to our bodies. We're in a hustle culture where it's go, 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 and we don't take time to listen to the signs and signals our body is telling us. So taking a moment to acknowledge, is my mouth dry? Am I thirsty? Is my stomach grumbling? Am I hungry right now? Is my body sore? Am I tired? Do I need to rest? So impactful, especially for people who are struggling with their mental health, and especially with neglecting self-care. That's such a big part of mental health struggles, and this can be a way to take care of your body better. And then thirdly, which I mentioned before, is mindfully listening to other people talking. Because building strong connections with people requires that listening. And I think what comes first is being mindful of yourself and then others. Because if you can't be mindful of yourself and your own feelings and your body, how are you going to be mindful for someone else? It can be really challenging. For some people, it might be easier to be mindful for other people because it's not themselves. But it really takes compassion with oneself first in order to grow with other people. As a Buddhist, compassion is very important, and in all situations, I like to have compassion for myself and then others. With me personally, I often go to self-blame and hatred when that's really counterproductive, because if I made a mistake, how am I going to move on and be better because of it if I'm just hating myself for the mistake I made? It's very counterproductive. So I try to have compassion for myself when I make mistakes, acknowledge why I made the mistake, the mindset that I was in, the suffering that I was experiencing, and then recognize the suffering that I've caused to other people because of that suffering that I have. It all goes back to your suffering, and you need to have compassion for yourself, and you need to feel those feelings in order to move on and do better. So this is a mindset and a value of mine, is to always have compassion for myself and other people. I would like to practice what I preach real quick, because what would a mindfulness video be without practicing some mindfulness? I would like to practice some mindfulness with you really quickly, if you will so let me. So I would like you to take a seat or lay down somewhere comfortable, somewhere safe, no distractions, and if you do have distractions that you can't control, that's okay too. We want to be mindful of them as well. Sitting down or laying down, I would like you to close your eyes and try to relax your body. If you feel tense, relax your muscles. I would like you to take a deep breath in through your nose and then hold it for a couple seconds. and then release it long throughout your mouth. And repeat this 2 times. Notice any sounds that you can hear. If you're outside, can you hear the wind? Do you hear the birds? If you're inside, can you hear the hum of electricity in your house? Can you hear the air conditioning? Do you hear cars outside your window? Do you hear your pets, your animals? Can you hear the music from my video playing? I would like you to take another deep breath in through your nose and then hold for a couple seconds and take a really big deep breath out through your mouth, the biggest you've taken all day. Really fill up your lungs as much as you can with your in-breath. And release as much as possible with your out-breath. Now the goal is not to be free of thought. If you have thoughts coming up, and if you have feelings coming up, let them be there. Try not to hold on to those feelings, but just let them be. Acknowledge them. Try not to overthink them. Your feelings are just your feelings. That's all they have to be. Notice how your body feels. Does your body feel tense? Are you relaxed? Is your body sore? Maybe you've been very busy this week and your body hasn't had enough time to rest. Just allow it to rest in this moment. I would like you to take another deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose, acknowledge the feelings that you have. Out through your mouth, let your feelings be. Now you're not doing anything to change how your body feels or how your brain feels right now. You're just acknowledging, just allowing it to be. If you can, send your focus to a noise that you hear, even if it's just a quiet noise. For me, I'm paying attention to the birds chirping in the trees. I would like you to take a couple deep breaths while focusing on the sound of your choosing, just as we practiced. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. Notice how your body feels after allowing it to take a break, allowing it to rest, letting you take deep breaths, maybe the biggest breaths you've taken all day. Thank you so much for watching my video, and if you enjoyed this video and would like to support me further into making more videos like this, you can support me by liking this video, subscribing if you feel so inclined, and if you would like to leave a comment letting me know if this video helped you at all in your mindfulness journey, I would love to hear it. I hope you guys have an amazing day. I hope I was able to change your mindset about mindfulness. I'll catch you next time. Thank you so much.